The doorbell rang at exactly 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning. I wasn't expecting anyone, especially not at an hour when most people were still asleep, but I assumed it might be a delivery. Instead, standing on my porch was a middle-aged woman with blonde, highlighted hair styled in that unmistakable, "Can I speak to your manager?" cut, clutching a clipboard against her chest like it held classified documents. Before I even managed to say good morning, she gave me a slow, judgmental scan from head to toe. "You don't belong here," she declared, her voice dripping with an authority she definitely hadn't earned. She tapped her pen sharply on the clipboard. "This is a respectable neighborhood with standards. I need to see proof of ownership immediately." I blinked, still groggy and confused. "Sorry, and you are?" "I'm Karen Wilson, president of the Meadowbrook Estates Homeowners Association," she said with a smug smile, stressing every word of her title like she was announcing royalty. "And you are clearly too young to own property in this development. Our covenants are very specific about preserving the character of our community." I started to explain that I had just moved in a week ago, but she sliced through my sentence like a knife. "Save it. I've already filed the eviction paperwork. You have 30 days to vacate the premises before legal action is taken." She shoved a sheet of paper toward me. "Consider this your official notice." I stood frozen in place, stunned into silence, as she spun around on her heel. But she couldn't resist one last jab. "Next time, do your research before squatting in someone else's neighborhood." What Karen didn't know, what she couldn't even begin to imagine, was that not only did I legitimately own this house, but I had paid for it outright, in full, and in cash. Her accusations weren't just aggravating, they were potentially illegal. I closed the door slowly and leaned back against it, the so-called notice trembling in my hand. This was not at all how I had imagined beginning my journey as a homeowner. My name is Jason, and at 26 years old, I had just accomplished something many people thought was impossible: buying my first home completely debt-free. It hadn't happened overnight. After college, I had lived with my parents for 4 years while working remotely as a software developer. I saved religiously, invested smartly, and lived far below my means. So when a modest 3-bedroom home in Meadowbrook Estates hit the market at a surprisingly reasonable price due mainly to outdated interior decor, I jumped on it. The seller was an elderly man who had moved into assisted living, and his family wanted a quick, no-nonsense sale. My all-cash offer was exactly what they were hoping for. No financing delays, no loan contingencies, just a clean, simple purchase. Within 30 days, the keys were in my hand, and the deed was in my name. But instead of a warm welcome from my new neighbors, I was met with suspicious glances and hushed conversations. Karen, apparently, had taken it upon herself to become the neighborhood's self-appointed gatekeeper, and a 20-something single guy didn't fit whatever ideal she had in her head. From the minute the moving truck pulled up, I saw her lurking across the street, taking photos with her phone and shaking her head like I was lowering property values by existing. I told myself it wasn't worth stressing over. I had more important things to worry about, like ripping down the floral kitchen wallpaper and replacing the avocado green bathroom fixtures. I figured Karen would eventually relax once she saw I was a quiet, responsible homeowner who mostly kept to myself. I couldn't have been more wrong. 3 days after I moved in, the passive-aggressive campaign began. First came the notes, printed on official-looking HOA letterhead, complaining that my garbage cans were visible from the street. They weren't. Then she claimed my lawn needed immediate attention, even though I had mowed it the day before. Next came the slow drive-bys. Karen would creep past my house in her white SUV, slowing to a crawl while snapping pictures of violations only she could see. "Your holiday decorations must be approved by the committee," one note read. I hadn't put up any decorations. "Parking on the street overnight is prohibited," warned another. My car was in my garage. Things escalated quickly when she began telling other neighbors that I must be running some kind of illegal operation. How else could someone his age afford this house? I overheard her saying to an older couple walking their dog past my driveway, "He's probably dealing drugs or running a gambling ring. I've called the authorities to investigate. 2 weeks after her initial visit, a manila envelope appeared in my mailbox. Inside was an alleged official notice of non-compliance, claiming I violated HOA bylaws regarding minimum age requirements for homeowners. According to this absurd document, Meadowbrook Estates was a 55-plus community, and I had 30 days to move out or face legal action. This was outrageous. I had thoroughly reviewed the HOA documents before buying, and there was no age restriction at all. Meadowbrook was a regular suburban neighborhood, not a retirement village. I immediately called my real estate attorney, who confirmed exactly what I already suspected. "Karen is making this up," he said firmly. "Document everything. If she's filing false claims, that's harassment and possibly fraud." That evening, I installed security cameras around the property. If Karen wanted a war, I was more than ready for it. The breaking point came 3 days later when Karen marched up to my door with 2 other HOA board members trailing behind her. I recognized one of them as the neighbor who lived 2 doors down, who at least had the sense to look embarrassed. "We're here for a compliance inspection," Karen declared, attempting to shove her way past me into the foyer. I stepped forward, blocking the doorway. "You need to make an appointment and provide proper authorization for that," I said firmly. Karen's face turned a blotchy shade of red. "As HOA president, I have every right. You have the right to enforce real bylaws through the correct channels," I cut in, keeping my voice controlled. "What you don't have is the right to enter my private property without permission or invent rules that don't exist." I pulled out my phone and opened a PDF. "I have the complete HOA covenant right here. Please point out where it says there's an age restriction for homeowners." The neighbor from 2 doors down suddenly frowned and looked at Karen. "I've lived here 15 years. Karen, there's no age restriction." Karen's nostrils flared. "New amendment passed last month. Amendments require a 2/3 majority vote from all homeowners," I replied. "I never received any ballot or notice of such a vote." I turned to the other board members. "Did either of you?" Their uneasy silence told me everything. "Now," I said, opening the door wider in a clear dismissal, "I'd like all of you off my property. Any future communication needs to be in writing and based on actual HOA regulations." I held up my phone. "And for the record, this entire interaction has been recorded audio and video." Karen's expression twisted with fury, but she backed away, practically dragging the bewildered board members down my walkway. As they left, I heard her mutter venomously, "This isn't over." She was right, but not in the way she thought. The next morning, an official-looking county eviction notice was taped to my door. My pulse spiked as I ripped it down, but after examining it closely, I called the county clerk. The document was completely fake, filed under Karen's name with forged credentials claiming she had legal authority to perform evictions. The clerk sounded alarmed and immediately transferred me to the prosecutor's office. This wasn't just neighbor drama anymore. Karen had crossed fully into criminal territory, and I had no intention of letting it go. I gathered every piece of evidence I had: the fake HOA violations, security footage of Karen trespassing, the falsified eviction notice, and emails from neighbors who had been targeted by her before. The prosecutor was especially interested in the forged county paperwork. "Impersonating a public official and filing fraudulent legal documents are serious crimes," she told me. "We take this very seriously." Within days, a full investigation was underway. What they discovered was more shocking than I expected. Karen had been treating the HOA like her personal kingdom for years, creating fake rules, issuing unauthorized fines, and diverting HOA funds into her own accounts. She rarely held board meetings, fabricated minutes, and bullied several homeowners into compliance with threats similar to the one she'd used on me. Police obtained a warrant to search Karen's home office. Inside, they found folders on nearly every resident containing personal information she had no right to have, as well as templates for fake legal documents. Her computer revealed forged signatures from other board members and doctored financial reports meant to hide her embezzlement. 2 weeks after I contacted the county, I was working from home when noise erupted outside. I looked out the window to see 2 police officers escorting Karen out of the HOA office in handcuffs. Her face was twisted in outrage as neighbors emerged from their homes, eager spectators to her downfall. "This is ridiculous," she shouted as the officers led her away. "I was protecting our neighborhood from outsiders and freeloaders. Just wait, property values will crash if we let anyone move in." No one stepped forward to support her. Instead, silence filled the street, followed by applause from several porches as she was placed in the back of the patrol car. Karen was charged with multiple counts of fraud, forgery, impersonating a public official, harassment, and embezzlement of HOA funds. Her bail was set at $50,000, money she didn't have, because she'd blown most of her savings maintaining the illusion of wealth she used to intimidate everyone else. The next HOA meeting I attended was the opposite of what I'd expected. Instead of hostility, I was greeted warmly, with several neighbors apologizing for not standing up to Karen sooner. The interim board president, a retired judge who lived at the end of the street, pulled me aside afterward. "We could use someone like you on the board to help rewrite the bylaws," he said with a smile. "Your attention to detail and understanding of the regulations would be invaluable." As the meeting ended, the judge leaned in slightly. "You know, there's something ironic about all this. The house you bought, Karen tried to buy it 5 years ago, but her mortgage application was denied. She never got over it." I stood there, stunned, as the truth clicked into place. All of her rage, all of her harassment, all of her attempts to force me out, it all stemmed from jealousy over the one thing she couldn't have: the house I now owned. Karen was eventually sentenced to 18 months in prison for fraud and embezzlement, along with an order to pay $50,000 in restitution to the HOA. When the sentence was read, her carefully crafted facade shattered completely. "This is absurd," she shrieked in the courtroom. "I was maintaining standards. This community will fall apart without me." The judge simply added a contempt of court charge as officers led her away, still insisting she was the real victim.